I am Slick Nick, your personal Sigma mentor. Now, this topic, I think, has the potential to be quite controversial. Though I thought that about the video I made about how using profanity is not in the masculine frame, and people are agreeing with me. I said the same thing about alcohol, that it's more of a feminine action. People are agreeing with me. So maybe this won't be that controversial, but here it is. I perceive men who watch sports, I see that as a feminine activity, not a masculine one. So let's have some fun. Let's unpack this. It's pretty simple because we have a ruler for this. This is the ruler right here. There's no opinion involved. If we're looking at what defines masculine energy, calm, stable, logical solutions, versus feminine energy, chaos, conflict, emotional turmoil, I feel like this video it writes itself. This is too easy. This is too easy. Men who watch sports, the act of watching sports and being involved in that, it's clearly feminine energy. Need me to prove it? Okay, again, feminine energy, chaos, conflict, emotional turmoil. Here's my impression of a man watching sports. Okay, so it's Sunday afternoon, the game's on. We'll get to what he's eating here in a moment and what he's drinking in a moment. But here's how he's acting in his own home, watching other men do a physical activity. Oh, come on, go get it. Oh, ref, you're crazy. That's a bad call. Oh, man. Oh. That's feminine. It's not masculine. Yes, it's a man screaming and yelling, but that's my whole point. It's emotional turmoil. It's conflict and it's chaos. He has an emotional response to something that has nothing to do with him and doesn't actually affect his life. Who wins a game does not affect his life other than the fact that he's investing his emotions by watching the thing. And he's simply watching it. Sitting down, watching other men actually do a physical thing. Other men who are probably having to be very strict about their diet and their workout plan. He, meanwhile, is sitting down on his couch in emotional turmoil over that. And, oh, is his team going to make the touchdown versus the other? Well, then here's what it looks like. All right, yeah. And it's a celebration, but it's a lot of emotion. It's definitely not stable. It's definitely not calm. And it's definitely not logical because, again, the outcome of that game does not affect his life. Unless it does. And that's because he gambled on it, which is not masculine. One of the ways we also look at masculine energy and identity, or I should say, one of the ways we look at the masculine frame is we contrast it versus the 7 deadly sins, which are lust. Gluttony, I'd say, falls into this because a man watching sports in his home yelling at the TV, especially when I think of a Super Bowl party, I think of someone who is eating nachos and drinking beer and drinking soda and having all of these excess calories. That's what I'm picturing, because that's often the case with these Super Bowl parties. All these empty calories, and yet he has a lot of negative emotions, yelling when things don't go right, and a lot of positive things when do. But either way, it's emotion, it's chaos, is definitely what it is. But again, gluttony, as he's sitting down, eating empty, consuming calories. Pride, I'd say, is definitely involved. Sloth, absolutely. Wrath, yes. Greed, maybe not so much. Envy, maybe not so much. But we do see the 7 deadly sins in the process of a man watching sports. Now, we can say, well, what if he shows up to the game? What if he drives his car? What if he buys it? He pays hundreds of dollars for the tickets. He drives down there. He pays even more for parking. He pays way too much for food, and it's empty calories, it's garbage. Okay? And then he's shouting in person, and he's, hundreds of feet away from the game going on. Even worse is what I would say, because he spent all that time and energy, only still now to spend even more money, same thing, money and energy together, on that game that doesn't actually affect his life, though he allows it to affect his life. I mean, this is like the easiest video I've ever made. Clearly, it's feminine energy to invest in sports and watching this. Well, we could say, but what if you're playing the sport? What if it's actually you? You have to eat right, get in your protein, get in the right number of carbs, and then you're playing and then you're practicing. Okay, I'll give you that. There's definitely something absolutely masculine about that. And that's great. But I'd say the little caveat, the star next to it is, I also recognize that when you play sports, you're quite likely to be injured. And we see this happen. We see how these players get these multi-million-dollar contracts. And yay, you just made $30 million because you signed on for this season on this team. And then they get hurt. And then their career's over. Yes, they get to keep the $30 million, but they no longer get to play professionally. And they're injured for the rest of their life. Whether it's their back, or their leg, or their arm, or their shoulder, whatever it is. So is that worth $30 million? I guess to some it is. It wouldn't be worth it to me. I would rather find other ways to make that money. I feel it's very clear that specifically there's this facade that sports is a masculine thing. That's what we're taught to believe. And there absolutely is some masculine identity in it. I mean, to give some credit here, when we look at what I've deemed as the masculine traits, they would involve being direct, respectful, emotionally intelligent, being a good communicator, being healthy, fit, and well-dressed. Okay, that definitely lines up with sports. Being direct, that lines up with sports. Finding your unique identity in your skill set, absolutely. Being a leader, yes. Being confident, yes. Being funny, not so much. Being committed, yes. So when we look at masculine traits, we can see how being part of a sports team or even watching it does line up to this to some degree. But the energy is absolutely feminine. The energy is not masculine if you're the one being the consumer. There's no way around this. And I think for me, that's why, I grew up with my dad never watching sports. And I don't watch sports. My son is actually the one that's into sports. And that's good. And I celebrate that. I go to all of his baseball games. We watch the Super Bowl on TV. Of course, I'm not emotionally caught up in it. But I'm not saying it's bad or it's evil. But I'm saying that if you are caught up in the game, I'm saying, yeah, that's absolutely feminine energy. And it's no different than a woman who's watching The Bachelor or listening to a pop or a country song about heartache, even though she's not even going through heartbreak or whatever, because she needs to feel that emotion. I say if you're a man who needs to feel that energy, be the energy. Don't watch the energy. Your comments belong right here.